The South African government has issued a strong warning ahead of the planned June 30th march against undocumented immigrants. Justice and Constitutional Development Minister Mamaloko Kubai says the government does not recognize June 30th as a national shutdown. She made it clear that while South Africans have the constitutional right to protest peacefully, blocking roads, schools, hospitals, businesses, or any public services is against the law. The minister warned that anyone who prevents people from accessing essential services or intimidates members of the public could face legal consequences. According to Kubai, no individual or group has the authority to shut down the country outside the law. Her remarks come as several groups continue to mobilize for demonstrations, saying they want tougher action against undocumented immigrants. The planned march has sparked intense debate across South Africa, with many supporting stronger immigration enforcement, while others fear that tensions could lead to violence or attacks on innocent people.
Under the Managing Irregular Migration Through Deportation and Repatriation, we are making substantial progress with the deportation and repatriations of the foreign nationals across the affected provinces. You will recall that over and above the work that we have been undertaking enforcing our immigration laws, mostly through deportation from our Lindela Repatriation Center, several countries have come forward to offer the voluntary repatriations of their respective nationals from the Republic of South Africa. Amongst these countries, Malawi, Ghana, Nigeria, Mozambique, and Zimbabwe, with Kenya and DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, being the latest to make the request. As you are aware, the repatriation process is voluntary, and requesting countries bear the primary responsibility for transportation costs and management of logistics in this regard. Under normal circumstances, the responsibility of the host country only involves verification and issuance of orders to leave. However, in certain instances or certain circumstances, the need does arise for our support to come through in terms as the country, which is handled on a case-by-case basis. As you might have observed from these scenes in Sherwood and Che Guevara, Durban Drive-In, Msunduzi areas in KwaZulu-Natal, the Malawian national situation had become untenable in terms of numbers and the humanitarian emergencies that had arisen henceforth. We had to make interventions to ensure that we are able to fulfill our obligations in this regard as South Africa, in terms of our international obligations as well, but within our own legal framework.
Government officials are calling on everyone taking part in the demonstrations to remain peaceful and respect the rights of others. Law enforcement agencies are also expected to be on high alert to ensure that public order is maintained throughout the day. As June 30th approaches, all eyes will be on whether the demonstrations remain peaceful or whether clashes will occur despite the government's warning. What are your thoughts? Should protesters be allowed to demonstrate freely as long as they obey the law, or should stricter measures be taken to prevent disruptions? Share your opinion in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more South African news updates.
If you look at the queue, in fact, it is increasing once again. Earlier on, we did indicate that the concern that has been raised by officials, of course, as you've rightfully indicated, is that there's a number of people that continue to arrive here seeking assistance with repatriation. In fact, I'm remembering now the conversation that we had with the Department of Home Affairs. They do state that after we moved from Sherwood coming here to the drive-in site, they do state that they stopped or abandoned the process of deportation. They indicated that moving forward, they're now only working with repatriation. In fact, they indicated that one of the reasons why they stopped the process of deportation was after that attack that happened in Sherwood, where you would have seen quite a number of Malawian nationals that attacked the police. So So the Department of Home Affairs indicating that they've now abandoned that process of deportation. But going back to repatriation, Michelle, as you can see, there's a number of people this side that have arrived with their belongings. You'll remember that the biggest concern that was raised by those that would be boarding those different buses was that they were not sure if they would be allowed to actually take all their belongings home. You would have seen when we were in Sherwood, a lot of them had fridges, they had stoves, they had bicycles, among other belongings. But what we found out when they were boarding those different buses was that they were actually being told that they could only bring one small bag. That does then raise the question in terms of those that are arriving here today, if they will be allowed to bring all their belongings with them. I do remember even when we had that move from Sherwood, when they moved from Sherwood to the drive-in site, there's a number of people that left quite a lot of luggage, quite a lot of belongings behind. But we're going to continue to monitor the process and also perhaps just to find out from officials if that directive that was given in terms of the luggage that you're seeing here has also changed. Initially, they had indicated that one of the reasons why, and if you look at those buses, Michelle, I could be wrong, but we haven't seen a single bus that has a trailer. The initial reports that we received was that there were trailers that were supposed to come with those different buses. In fact, those first 8 buses, they were supposed to come with trailers. However, because the repatriation coincided with the Comrades Marathon that was happening, the officials stated that those trailers were then hired by those different people that were taking part in that particular race. So ever since then, we haven't seen or haven't heard anything regarding the trailers that would be available, but a lot of questions in terms of whether these people that are actually new arrivals, whether these people will be allowed to take home with them all their belongings. At this point, some of them a bit shy, of course, as you can see, they are looking down at this point, but just to bring your attention in terms of where this line is headed. So if you go around this particular bend, which is actually on my right, the queue is moving towards the entrance of the site. And as you can see, of course, there's ablution facilities that have been provided. So the queue does go all the way to the main entrance, which is where that verification process starts. The conversation that we had with officials yesterday, they stated that even though there's a number of people that continue to arrive here, they will not be deviating from following proper procedures. And there you're looking at the steps that need to be followed when you are looking at the verification process. Firstly, they indicated that one would have to go to the SAPS desk or SAPS officials that are available inside. They would then be moving to the Home Affairs, the South African Home Affairs officials. Then they would move to the Malawian Immigration Services or the Malawian officials. And from there, you would then be boarding the bus. But once again, just to reiterate, despite an influx of people continuing to arrive this side, Home Affairs officials do state that they will not be deviating from the process of following proper procedures in terms of processing these people.
So at this point, Siletiwe, do we have, just very quickly, an update on the numbers there?
Unfortunately not, Michelle. We are still waiting to hear if they do have that count. But lastly, they did indicate that there is no counting mechanism that is in place.
Yeah, that makes sense, I suppose, but it makes the job of officials that much harder. Siletiwe Ndlovu is my colleague tracking that story.
On the 7th of June 2026, we meet today to update the nation on the significant progress made since our last engagements on the 14th of June 2026. To reaffirm the government's commitment to managing irregular migration through lawful, coordinated, and constitutional means. The President of the Republic of South Africa established this committee to oversee the execution of the 5-point strategy, which includes a crackdown on violations of the law and deportation of undocumented foreign nationals or illegal foreign nationals, securing our borders through deployment of ground sensors, satellite monitoring and drones, strengthening of the country's migration systems, closing the gaps in laws and policies, and working with other countries on the continent so that we can be able to respond to the challenges that we face. We deal with progress made in these areas in greater details as follows. Under the Managing Irregular Migration Through Deportation and Repatriation, we are making substantial progress with the deportation and repatriations of the foreign nationals across the affected provinces. You will recall that over and above the work that we have been undertaking enforcing our immigration laws, mostly through deportation from our Lindela Repatriation Center, several countries have come forward to offer the voluntary repatriations of their respective nationals from the Republic of South Africa. Amongst these countries, Malawi, Ghana, Nigeria, Mozambique, and Zimbabwe, with Kenya and DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, being the latest to make the request. As you are aware, the repatriation process is voluntary, and requesting countries bear the primary responsibility for transportation costs and management of logistics in this regard. Under normal circumstances, the responsibility of the host country only involves verification and issuance of orders to leave. However, in certain instances or certain circumstances, the need does arise for our support to come through in terms as the country, which is handled on a case-by-case basis. As you might have observed from these scenes in Sherwood and Che Guevara, Durban Drive-In, Msunduzi areas in KwaZulu-Natal, the Malawian national situation had become untenable in terms of numbers and the humanitarian emergencies that had arisen henceforth. We had to make interventions to ensure that we are able to fulfill our obligations in this regard as South Africa, in terms of our international obligations as well, but within our own legal framework. To date, as of close of business of 25 June 2026, a total of 15,162 Malawian nationals have been processed for deportation and repatriations, and more are still undergoing the verification processes for repatriation from various temporary repatriation centers in the country. Given the gravity of the situation and the need to expedite the deportation and repatriation of these foreign nationals, we have undertaken a decision to extend the jurisdiction of the Musina Refugee Reception Office in the Limpopo province to also conduct verifications. We have, as a result, activated all logistical relating to the repatriation of foreign nationals in Musina. We will work with various stakeholders such as the Office of the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, international organizations for migrations, Red Cross, Future Family, Musina Legal Advice Office, Outreach Foundation, and Save the Children Foundation to facilitate these processes, including the Council General of Malawi. The IMC Technical Committee on Migration has identified a site that be utilized for a temporary repatriation processing center outside the town of Musina in Limpopo province. The repatriation center currently utilized in eThekwini will be closed, and all Malawian nationals will be transferred once all logistics are finalized to the center. So this center is not for those who are looking to come into the country. It's for those that are currently saying voluntarily would want to leave, so we're making it easier for all of them across the country who want to move into a center, and that will be the most center. The proposed TRPC, Temporary Repatriation Processing Center, would enable faster processing and verification of undocumented foreign nationals, facilitate more efficient clearance through the Bait Bridge port of entry, and serve as a decentralization processing point, reducing reliance on Lindela and improving overall system throughout the country. This will help us as well to be able to account for the centers that are there and also to be able to have one point where everybody is being processed. This intervention is intended to support timely deportation, improve compliance with legal time frames and legal frameworks, and enhance operational resilience under current such conditions. The second area we report on is crackdown on violations of the law. Let me reiterate the message from the state, president, and government as a whole, which was also communicated by the president yesterday when he was appearing for his oral questions in the NCOP. Enforcement of the law is the responsibility of the state and no one else. Thus, we are ready as a state to protect every person, citizen, and foreign nationals against any form of abuse and intimidation. We therefore indicate as government that the 30th of June is a normal day. It's not a shutdown, it's not a stay away. Employees are expected to be in work, attending. Those who are transporting are expected to continue with their businesses, and everybody who is running business is expected to do so. And this day is their legal right, is their constitutional right, and no one has a right to actually infringe upon that right. So we do not recognize the 30th as a shutdown day or an off day. So those who are working, if you are not going to work, you are not going to get paid. So it will be no pay. You would have absconded from work. We further reiterate that no unauthorized person is permitted to demand documentation or proof of nationality from anyone. Blocking access for anyone to go to clinic, hospitals, schools, or other public services is prohibited and is against the law. Violence and intimidation against foreign nationals and citizens of this country is against the law and will be prosecuted in accordance with relevant legal prescripts. Advocates and perpetrators of racism, sexism, tribalism, hate speech, Afrophobia, xenophobia, and any form of intolerance have no place in our country that is founded on the ideals of Ubuntu and our founding document for our constitutional democracy, our constitution. Misinformation, incitement of hatred or violence, and fake news spread on social media and any platform will be prosecuted, and we disassociate many people. We actually ask people to disassociate from them. Please don't circulate in your WhatsApp what you have not verified. We are picking up a lot of WhatsApp groups that are sending information that is fake, that is false. We are asking every South African citizen to be responsible, not to circulate information that that is not been verified, that actually you find that the sources are actually in terms of fake, to discredit and harm the image of the country. We reiterate that while most employers comply with relevant immigration and labor laws, those employers who continue to employ and exploit undocumented and illegal migrants will be prosecuted in accordance with the Immigration Act. We have thus far, working together as the IMC, we have intensified intelligence-led prosecutorial guided operations across the country. As of 21 June 2026, 89 incidences related to public order and incitement have been reported and registered as criminal cases, up from 53 the previous week. A total of 164 people have been arrested for offenses including incitement of violence, contravention of the Regulations of Gatherings Act, and other related transgressions. Of these, 36 cases are already on the court roll, while 42 remain under active investigation. Multidisciplinary enforcement operation led by the Deputy Ministers of Home Affairs, police, and employment and labor have continued in several provinces. A recent operation conducted in Tshwane resulted in 35 arrests, including 2 employers charged with employing undocumented foreign nationals. And you would have seen that last night as well, they were doing an operation, and we appreciate the support by the media covering this work, because we've been saying that we do this work, but without public seeing this work, because it has been done over time. But because it's not covered, it's not broadcasted. That's why people think that we are not doing the work. So we appreciate you coming on board and showcasing the work that is being done by government. So you'd have seen it was Deputy Minister of Home Affairs, Deputy Minister of Labor, and Deputy Minister of Transport that were doing the operation last night. And these operations will continue. Shanyela conducted under police, conducted across various provinces, and they reported the arrest of 5,056 suspects for contravention of immigration laws in the week of 15 June alone. So this work as well continues in multifaceted. We have also noted and condemned in the strongest terms recent incidences of anti-immigration protest accompanied by looting of shops in the Free State on the 16th and 18th of June. SAPS have opened cases and arrests have followed. We reiterate that vigilantism, looting, and the targeting of individuals based on nationality are criminal acts, and that will be met with the full force of the law. Securing our borders, that's the other area that we report. The Border Management Authority. The Border Management Authority, working with SAPS, the South African National Defence Force, and other law enforcement agencies, have maintained heightened vigilance across all ports of entry in the 3 modalities of land, air, and sea. Static checkpoints and roadblocks remain in place at key corridors leading to critical ports, including Beitbridge. The Minister of Defence has been designated by the IMC as the ministerial champion for the urgent improvement of the borderline infrastructure, and mapping and identification of vulnerable areas along our borderlines have been completed with input from state security agencies, and a priority crossing point have been identified for ministerial intervention. The South African National Space Agency, which is mandated under the SANSA Act, will be engaged through the National Policy Data Observatory to provide high-resolution satellite imagery for the monthly detection and monitoring of cleared vegetation, illegal road development, and emerging informal settlements along our borders. Further work is being done with various stakeholders, including farmers, on the borderline to secure our borders. This includes temporary measures being implemented on vulnerable segments of the border that will immediately be secured. Next week, on the 2nd, the IMC will be doing an inspection and a site visit to the borderline, led by Minister of Defense. Closing the gap in the legislation and policy. The Department of Small Business Development has initiated a program to accelerate small business registration to ensure all traders are legal and have the necessary permits of trade. The cumulative permitting and licensing data as at 24 June 2026 shows that almost 100,000 applications, more than 100,000 applications have been received nationally, of which 42,151 relate to applications where the owner is a foreign national. Of the total application, 26,367 were approved, including 6,749 approvals where the owner is a foreign national who is legally within the country. KwaZulu-Natal recorded the highest number of applications and approvals, while Gauteng recorded a high number of applications but comparatively fewer approvals. Again, in this area, the IMC will announce a date to all go and inspect this work that is being done, led by Minister Ndabeni. Just to indicate as well, DSBD, which is the Small Business Development Department, together with SALGA and COCTA, have finalized a joint action plan for capturing and registration of informal businesses, a joint interdepartmental nerve center that includes the 3 departments will be established at a technical and political level to put more impetus to the registration process. To add to this effort, COCTA, in collaboration with traditional leaders, will support municipalities to embark on business licensing activation and strengthen bylaws enforcement in rural areas. With regards to the implementation of Spaza Shop Support Fund, a total of 4 Spaza Shop awareness campaigns were conducted during June in Mpumalanga and Gauteng. The campaigns have reached more than 131 Spaza Shop, and the work continues. With regards to the delivery of social services, such as health, education, and other services, as part of our work stream on social services, South Africa is obligated to protect all children within the Republic, consistent with its constitutional and statutory, as well as international and regional commitment. South African courts have consistently confirmed that these constitutional rights apply to all children within the borders of South Africa. While we are mindful of the concerns raised by various communities with regards to the provision of social services to migrants, we believe that the work that we are doing to manage the migration will ensure the provision of such services to migrants is controlled, orderly, and manageable, and does not disadvantage South African citizens. And this work continues. I must say, during our engagement with the traditional leaders as well, they flagged quite a number of areas, and we have agreed to partner with them and work with them, especially as Department of Justice. We established the traditional courts in the areas for them to be able to be given certain powers to assist us in monitoring some of the work. Moving to the next area of reporting, which is working with other African countries. We continue to deepen bilateral and multilateral cooperation. Last week, the Deputy Minister of DECO, Ms. Moraka, met with a delegation from the Republic of Mozambique to provide feedback on the deaths of Mozambican nationals in May 2026. I must reiterate that indeed, in relation to this, there are people who have been arrested and they are currently being processed through our justice system. The reports were alleging that 6 Mozambican nationals were killed because of the unrest that had happened in Mossel Bay. And on investigation by the South African Police Service, it was discovered that only 2 fatalities resulted from the unrest, while the other 3 perished in an unrelated car accident, with another in an altercation with a fellow patron in a place of entertainment. The 6 have already been repatriated to Mozambique as a country. There is also 1 Malawian national who lost his life during a march in Pietermaritzburg. The body has yet to be repatriated, and all cases have active dockets with assigned investigators, and public order policing deployments have been reinforced in affected areas to prevent any such happening again. SAP's family liaison officers and Department of Social Development continue to work with the High Commission on the repatriation of the remains and the family support to be provided. We once again extend our sincere condolences to the families, the governments, and the people of Mozambique and Malawi for their nationals who have perished within our shores. We have adopted a coordinated approach which includes a whole of government and a whole of society approach. Engagements with various stakeholders are not just prioritized by the IMC, but they are further spearheaded by the President. Since our last media briefing, we have undertaken the following engagements as the IMC, but most of them led by the President. On 15 June, the IMC met with Chapter 9 and Chapter 10 institutions to explain the work. On the 17th of June, the President led a meeting with faith-based organizations. On the 17th of June, the Deputy President led a meeting with the traditional leaders and Khoisan community leaders. On the 19th of June, a meeting briefing with the SADC media houses was held, led by DG Makode as the technical lead person. On 19 June, the IMC did an oversight visit to Lindela holding facility as part of our monitoring and oversight. On the 21st of June 2026, the IMC delegation met with representatives of the Zulu Royal House and the traditional Prime Minister of the Zulu Nation led that meeting, which also would have seen that the Royal House as well has been issuing statements in condemning the activities or also violence around the protest. On the 23rd June 2026, President led a meeting with organized labor. On the 24th of June, President led a meeting with businesses. On the 24th of June, Minister and Acting Commissioner of Police met with Private Security Industry Regulatory Authority, SIRA, and Security Industry CEOs. On the 24th of June 2026, the Acting Commissioner of Police met with Santaco. On the 25th of June 2026, the IMC, led by myself, met with the representatives of Siyafana Sonke campaign movement. On the 25th of June, we have also from government noted the Premier of KZN hosting a summit on undocumented foreign nationals with various government and non-government stakeholders. We must also indicate that we have had a meeting with lawyers for human rights in the country, representing various organizations. They've subsequently, after our meeting, they've taken us to court. The matter was being heard this morning in the Durban court. We have submitted our affidavit with the work that we are doing. We understand from our legal representative, we'll receive a full briefing, that indeed the lawyers for human rights acknowledge the work that has been done, because we provided records, the media statements, the presentations that we do in terms of tracking the work, and showing that government is not complacent, but government has been actively working in terms of protecting citizens, but also enforcing the rule of law. Our message to our stakeholders and the general public is that the task of managing migration belongs to all of us, but not for the enforcement. So we must emphasize, we all can work together to manage this. We can work together in stakeholder, but in terms of law enforcement, it remains the responsibility of law enforcement. And we believe that as the IMC, we all have a role to play. As we undertake all these actions, we must remain at all times be guided by our constitution, our laws, and our international obligations. We must work together to reduce tensions in our communities. We must stand together against violence, hatred, intimidation, and any form of intolerance. We must not allow anyone to exploit the genuine concerns of South Africans to incite violence, spread misinformation, and destabilize our country. We call on all leaders and leadership structures, including traditional religious leaders, civil society, business, labor, political parties, diplomatic communities, and every South African to work with government to support the actions we have announced to tackle illegal and irregular migration. We are a nation built with a significant contribution of migrants, especially from the SADC region, and we are more diverse, dynamic, and strong because of our rich history. By strengthening our laws and enforcing them fairly, we can tackle illegal migration while remaining true to our constitution and to our shared humanity. We must not forget that the spirit of Pan-Africanism, which inspired the founders of our democracy, demands that we strive for a united and peaceful Africa. We once again caution the public against the spread of misinformation and disinformation on social media platforms. Old, staged, and manipulated videos and images continue to be circulated with the deliberate intent of inciting violence, fueling attacks on foreign nationals, and damaging South Africa's international standing. Government has held engagement with over-the-top services, social media platforms, to address violent incitement linked to the 30th of June deadline being propagated by certain formations. Government is unequivocal in its position. Section 16 of the Constitution guarantees the right of freedom of expression, but this right does not extend to propaganda for war, incitement of imminent violence, or advocacy of hatred based on race, ethnicity, gender, or religion. Section 17 equally guarantees the right to peaceful and unarmed assembly. Regulated under the Regulations of Gatherings Act, that we need to remember. Any conduct that crosses these lines, whether by individuals, organized formations, or so-called community-enforced groups, constitutes a criminal offense. While the challenge of migration are complex, the path forwards remains anchored in the Constitution, the rule of law, and our shared commitment as Africans. Government will not tolerate the circumvention of our immigration systems, nor will it permit acts of vigilantism, violence, or intimidation directed at any community. We call on all undocumented persons within our borders to comply with our laws, and we call on employers to refrain from transgressing immigration and labor legislation. We repeat as government that the 30th of June is a normal day in South Africa, both in terms of the economic activities and social activities, and this will not be disrupted. We thank our partner countries for their cooperation in the safe, orderly, and voluntary repatriations of their citizens, and we further thank the people of South Africa for their continued patience and trust as we restore stability to the affected communities. Thank you very much.